Mr. Chadha, and we are delighted to have you with us. So may I request you to please share your views with us. Mr. Chadha, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nalin Kohli, Chairman IndiaSoft. My fellow panelists, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, my warm greetings to all of you, especially our friends who have joined from overseas.
Sir, your audio is a little low. Can you just tweak it a little?
Come nearer.
Yeah,
is it better now?
It's better now. Ji, thank you.
At the outset, let me express my pleasure at joining all of you at this conference organized by the Electronics.
1 minute, Sanjay, sorry, this is Deepak Bagla. We still can't hear you. Nalin, we want to check what's wrong because we can't hear Sanjay.
Okay, should I?
Yeah, still the audio is low. Gurmeet, can we do something about it? So is it more at your end? If you could be closer to the mic.
See, I know all of you are digital experts. I am the one who's slightly technologically challenged in this audience, but let me try to attempt whatever I can.
Yeah, it's better now. I mean, just be as close to the mic as possible.
Okay. One second. Is it okay? Is it better now?
Not really. We lost your video also.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Little better.
Phone, but okay. Now I'll just make it quick and short. Maybe that's an indication for me to keep it short. Let me just say that, you know, it's a matter of pride that you're organizing the 21st edition of your IndiaSoft in the year 2021. So the numbers tally. And I would just like to say that, you know, we all are aware that there was always a push towards digitization. But what the pandemic did was it converted this push into a shove. So if you really look at what happened, the new normal is really a very highly digitized normal. Now, we know that the way we interact, the way consumers and producers interact, be it agriculture, healthcare, retail, logistics, everything has changed on a digital platform as soon as the pandemic struck or soon thereafter. So we have to realize that when we talk of the new normal, it's really a normal where the digital people would play a very leading role. Now, if you look at India, we had an internet penetration of only 4% in 2007. Rapid strides are evident that in 2020, we have an internet penetration of almost 50%. In 2020, we had almost 700 million internet users, and they are expected to reach just a little under a billion by the year 2025. In fact, if you look at sheer numbers, we are the second largest online market worldwide, next only to China. And here also, there is some interesting statistics. If you look at the average monthly download of data, in India, an average monthly download data is 8.3 GB as against 5.5 GB in China. So we just love our digital platforms, be it social media, be it streaming video. So, you know, there are huge scopes there. Those of you who follow the movie world, if I may put it, would realize that all the actors and actresses have started speaking of the OTT platform. They all started realizing that they also would need to adapt. Maybe it's not that the day and age of the cinema is over, but there will be a new medium and a very formidable medium which is going to come. Now, having said that, I would also like to say that the productivity unlocked by the digital economy, though many experts believe that it will create something like 60 to 65 million jobs in the next 5 years. But one also has to remember that almost 40-45 million people would need to be retrained, would need to be reskilled, need to be educated on the digital platforms. I remember when I joined as a mechanical engineer, we had hardly heard of CNC machines. Today, I don't think you go anywhere, you find a normal machine. Everything is on CNC. So that has become the basic datum. Something that was a high-end technology back 20 years ago is today supposed to be the minimum basic technology. Digitization is the future. I'll speak from the trade perspective. If you look at our services trade today, the predominance of IT sector is very evident. Very substantial part is IT. Some say that it's disproportionately large, but yes, it's there. We are not very formidable when it comes to electronics exports, which form the backbone for the digital technologies, the hardware part of it. But let me tell you an interesting figure. Globally, oil has been the most traded commodity in the world. But it's said that in the next 5 years, electronics will overtake oil to become the most traded commodity. Recognizing this, the government of India has come up with various initiatives. Most of you are aware that the flagship PLI schemes were launched in the digital sector, be it mobile phones, now coming in the computers, tablets, the servers. So there is a thrust and there is a focus that the digital world is the world of the future. And that's where India can't be left behind. If you look at the first few statements of the US administration, they have gone to the extent of talking of what is called techno democracies. So when you talk of techno democracies, it means that there is a scope for cooperation in the future, technologies of the future, between countries, and it's going to play an increasingly important role, both politically and commercially. Of course, we have a very liberal and stable FDI policy and foreign investment regime, but I will let experts who are going to speak talk about it because they are more qualified. Mr. Deepak Bagla, for one, would be able to tell you more about the investment facilitation and that part of it. But I would just like to say that I am happy that ESC has organized this India Soft, and I'm sure that though we miss meeting in person, but India Soft on a digital platform is something that seems to be a very natural thing rather than an unnatural thing, because this is your platform. And I am sure that the deliberation in this India Soft today will bring greater clarity about the opportunities offered by India's digital economy and help forge new partnerships between the Indian software companies and the global entrepreneurs. Now, here I would just like to quote an ad which I saw many years ago. I know that most of you are the MSME sector. There was an ad by IDBI when it moved from corporate banking to retail banking. It said, it's not just for the big boys. And I totally endorse that. So with these words, I once again extend a warm welcome to all the delegates, especially our overseas guests. And we look forward to some fruitful deliberations and some business deals being struck. I congratulate ESC once again on this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chadha, for your inspiring words. And may I now request Mr. Deepak Bagla. Mr. Deepak Bagla is the Managing Director and CEO of Invest India, which is the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of Government of India. They are also the implementation agency for Startup India. Mr. Bagla has done his master's in international diplomacy, trade and finance from Georgetown University in United States. And we are really privileged to have him with us. He has worked in the World Bank and with private equity companies before he joined the government. And he is the person who actually facilitates all inward investments in the country. Very well experienced in many countries in the world. And may I now request Mr. Bagla to please give his keynote address.
Thank you, Nalin. Such a pleasure. And thank you for getting us all together. It's so good. I'm seeing friends on this small little screen after a while, Anand for sure, one and many others. So thank you for getting us all together and from different time zones, morning, afternoon, evening, and we've hit the night in India. So for all of us, just to show how it works around the clock. Let me pick up some points where Sanjay left us because I think he built it up very well. And let me just start by introducing, for the first time in our history, what we are seeing as an element which is both the protagonist and the catalyst. And that's where I speak about digitization. And when you are both the protagonist and the catalyst by itself, see what the result has been. And what India is experiencing today is the most unprecedented transformation ever in human history of the free world. Let me explain what I'm saying because that's a big statement. And I must also say that the entire effort and the focus of the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, on the digitization of India is probably brought India to one of its most critical inflection points in history. Now, let me just explain what I mean by the unprecedented transformation and why I say that, both in terms of pace of the transformation and the scale of the transformation. Sanjay mentioned to you about data, and he mentioned to you about per capita data. Let me first talk about the pace at which India is changing. And digitization, by the way, is the center of all the points which I'm taking on. About 48 months ago, India's global ranking was 123 in per capita data consumption. And data, we all agree, is going to be the new oil, which will be the engine of growth for industry and economy and society across the globe. From that position of 123 48 months ago, do you want to take a guess where we were earlier this year? Number one in the world. India today is number one in per capita data consumption. And I'm saying per capita. I'm not saying total data consumption. That'll be unfair of me because we'll outbid everybody else by 1.3 billion if we multiply that number by. And that number is increasing very fast. The second is the scale at which this change is happening. And that is what brings me to the point of how digitization is being the catalyst to. And the change is, and the scale at which it is happening, we are about 1.3 billion, as I mentioned. We'll be 1.5 billion by 2025-26. It'll be the highest human capital on the planet within a single national boundary, at least for the next 100 years. Think of the pace and the scale at which this digitization is creating an impact. And the interesting point here is it is not just the investment in the entire digital infrastructure itself, which is an opportunity, but it is now showing the way to every other opportunity which is opening up in India across each and every segment of our existence. Now, let me bring you to some numbers. Before we started with this little virus in March 2020, we closed our FDI with $74 billion, the highest ever FDI we've got in our history. What's interesting is over 90% of it came in what we call as the automatic route, which means that it did not require any specific approvals, making India one of the most open economies on the planet. And a large part of that, close to a little over 40%, was in greenfield investment. India today is one of the top greenfield destinations in the world. And let me tell you what happened even during the lockdown, during these past days when the entire world was in a lockdown and all borders were sealed. In the first 9 months, so you know our financial year begins on the 1st of April, from the 1st of April till December, India received an FDI already of $67.5 billion. The same period in the previous year, it was $55 billion. That means even during this lockdown, we had over a 20% growth in the numbers of FDI coming in. And why is that happening? There are three pillars. I told you about us being the largest human capital on the planet. The average age of my human capital is 29. I'll be the youngest on the planet for the next 80 to 90 years. And most importantly, just before we went into this virus, India was the fastest growing large economy on the planet. And as we come out of this virus, which everybody is now seeing that we are moving out of it much faster than anyone else, at least in a V, if you look at the World Bank, the IMF figures, you see India retaining its position of being the fastest growing large economy going forward. 11.5% for the first 12 months and another 6.7% for the next 12 months. This is opening up a huge set of opportunities. Nalin, I know I've crossed my 5 minutes, but I'll just leave with the last point. The biggest beneficiary, which I see this as we come out of this virus, is there's going to be a new India which is emerging bottom up. That means that 70% of my population, which is 12% of the world's population, which lives in my villages, is now being brought into the main fold by this entire digital infrastructure. And most importantly, Sanjay mentioned about the MSMEs, and since we are talking about MSMEs, I have 65 million MSMEs in India. That is my core strength. Nalin, you spoke about the innovation. Well, the biggest strength of India's MSMEs is their ability to pivot their business models and frugal innovation. We all remember on the 31st of March, we did not have a single PPE in India. We were scurrying around the globe to get it. And on the 15th of July, I had a run rate of over 1 million PPEs a day, making me number 2 in the world, and to a point where we were exporting them to countries across the globe, including Europe and US. And that was all because of the strength of my MSMEs, which could pivot their business models, which were nimble, which did frugal innovation, and showed to the world that when they partner with the world, they create the best, not just for India, but the entire world. So with that, let me just tell you, there is a new India which is emerging. There is a new Atmanirbhar Bharat, as our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, calls it. An India which is strong, which is self-reliant, and which works on its strengths to partner with the world to create the best for everyone. So with that, Nalin, I take it back to you because I've crossed my time, but I do want to let you know, this is the time to join hands with us and walk this journey together, which helps every one of us together. Thank you again for bringing us together, and we look forward to the deliberations for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepak. It's always a pleasure to listen to you. May I now request Mr. Jayesh Ranjan to please share his thoughts with us. Mr. Ranjan, as I said, is the Principal Secretary for Information Technology, Biotechnology and Industries in the government of Telangana. Telangana, you are probably more familiar with Hyderabad, which is the capital city of Telangana, is a big success story in our IT map. Hyderabad has been able to attract a lot of foreign companies to come there on their own or in partnership with local companies. And therefore, we requested Mr. Jayesh Ranjan to share his journey in terms of attracting foreign companies to Hyderabad, which is also very relevant for the country, can be replicated in other places. There are other success stories, but Hyderabad is one of them. And may I request Mr. Jayesh Ranjan to please share his views with us. By the way, our earlier several IndiaSoft events took place in Hyderabad. The last one, which was the physical event, was also in Hyderabad. They have one of the best convention centers in the country. And although we try looking elsewhere, but we can't find anything, so we go back to Hyderabad. Chances are, after the COVID thing is over, the next physical event would also take place there. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kohli. Greetings to all the participants, greetings to all the attendees. So I work for one of the provinces in India. India, as many of you would know, is a federal country and there are 28 provinces. So while you heard the earlier two speakers give you the national picture, but the truth is that the action really happens in the provinces. The action really happens in the states. The national government frames policies, frameworks, etc. But the action on the ground happens in the states. And I represent a state which is called Hyderabad, and it is considered to be one of the most progressive states, one of the most business-friendly states in the country. The IT industry here is also quite huge. We have about 1,400 companies, give jobs to close to 600,000 people, export software worth about $20 billion. And if you look at the past 5 years, the growth in our city of Hyderabad has been the best in the country. While we are not the biggest IT hub in this country, I must admit that the biggest IT hub is a city called Bangalore. But if you look at the growth of the IT industry in the last 3 years, we have clocked the best growth figures. And there is another statistic which will amaze you. If you look at the most valued tech companies of the world, if you just search them, 5 names will come up. The 5 names are Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Facebook. And the amazing thing is that each of these 5 companies, their second largest presence in the world. The largest is obviously in their headquarters, which coincidentally is in the US. But after that, their second largest footprint anywhere in the world is in Hyderabad. And no other city in the world has this kind of a unique distinction of being the host to some of the biggest names of the world. And of course, if you look down further in the list, even companies like Salesforce, Uber, Qualcomm, ServiceNow, each of them have their second largest presence in the world in our city of Hyderabad. And let me also share this with you, that all these companies, they are doing some very advanced, some very cutting edge work in Hyderabad. It is not that they do some back end work, some low end work, some easy kind of jobs. Most of them are doing some very advanced kind of cutting edge work in the city of Hyderabad. And one of the prime reasons is that you get very high quality talent. The talent is available to the companies at a very affordable rate. There's a very strong government support ecosystem. The incentives that we provide to companies is very, very good. And let me share with you, during this last 12 months or so, the months of pandemic, lockdown, the IT industry continued to grow very well. We enabled everyone to work from home. And this transition also, working from offices to work from home, happened seamlessly, the best in India, in the city of Hyderabad. And in another 20 days or so, when we close our financial year, which starts from 1st April and ends on 31st March, I'm very confident that we will be clocking the growth figures, which will again be far, far ahead of the national average. So what I would like to offer to you is, I know that all of you are participating in IndiaSoft from different countries, you have different requirements, you want to explore new gen software solutions, products, and particularly in the post-COVID recovery era, where digitalization will play a very, very important role in driving whatever sector of economy you could be in, whatever sector of society you could be in. Indian companies can play a very important role. And I can tell this to you that in Hyderabad, I mentioned to you that there are 1,400 companies. We have the complete profile of each of them. Which company does what kind of domain experts they have, what kind of overseas businesses they have done in the past, what kind of new generation solutions and products that they have patented. And I must also share this with you, that Hyderabad is also a very important seat for innovation and entrepreneurship. Sometimes some of you may feel that if you source a particular product or solution from a company, the cost will be high, the billing will be high, and therefore at this point in time, when you yourself are recovering from this pandemic and there is a tendency to save cost, you perhaps will not be able to afford a very costly solution. So let me share this with you, that there are amazing startups. There are more than 2,000 startups in Hyderabad, many of whom have very useful solutions related to social sector, related to community requirements, and their solutions come at a very, very affordable price. So these are some of the opportunities that as a state I can make available to you, and I'll be very happy if you, as I said, precisely let me know what are you looking at. If you are also keen to have a long-term relation, if you want to look at some of these Hyderabad-based companies, set up their offices in your country or in your city, and perpetually remain there and service the local economy, the local enterprises. I'll be very happy to arrange for you to meet a range of companies who will be interested in your country. If you're looking at any particular technology, as I said, because some of the biggest names operate out of Hyderabad, we have become a very important center for emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, like big data, blockchain, and so on and so forth. So we'll be very happy to guide you in whichever way you want to. IndiaSoft has always been a great platform to connect, to make new business discoveries. And even though we are doing it virtually this year, I am very confident that the experience will be no different from the in-person ones that we have been used to so for the last so many years. And please seek my contact details. If, what I'll do is that I will also type my mail ID in the chat window, and please do pull it out from there. And I look forward to receiving your notes and being of help and use to you in whichever way I can. So once again, grateful to the organizers for giving me a chance, and look forward to hear the rest of the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ranjan, for sharing the success of Telangana. And I'm sure the business would be as usual, probably more, because digital event is over a longer period. But we will miss the Hyderabad cuisine. So hopefully soon we will have a physical event there. Thank you very much for being with us. I would now request Dr. Umkar Rai. Dr. Umkar Rai represents the Software Technology Parks of India. This is a Government of India body to provide infrastructure. He is the Director General. I had the privilege of being associated with Software Technology Parks of India, and I have seen personally how the dynamism that he has brought to the organization. STPI, as it is known, was set up at a time when we had very poor connectivity. The IT industry was growing, and STPI provided the satellite links at that time. If you look at Wikipedia and you try to find out what is the reason for India's success in IT, and they will say that STPI is one of the catalysts for doing that. So we are very happy that Dr. Rai is here. Over the years, he has transformed, not only providing infrastructure, but he is taking a big lead in innovation and promoting startups and centers of excellence in various parts of the country. Some of the smaller companies who wish to come to India can actually have soft landing at one of his sites. So may I now request Dr. Umkar Rai to share his views with the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Kohli. I think I would say that's a great opportunity to be here on this IndiaSoft 2021 platform. I have been associated with IndiaSoft for a very long time. Whether it was in Mumbai or Hyderabad, I have been participating most often. I would say that this very conference about investment opportunities in India's digital economy is a very opportune topic, apt topic, I would say. And I would like to take you to the success story that India created in terms of the development of creation of IT services industry of India, which stands about $147 billion exporting industry right now, with 4.3 million engineers working at all levels of value chain. You would also be knowing that the IT services industry of India is now actually delivering cutting-edge R&D services to its customers, and therefore most of the multinational R&D companies, IT companies have opened their R&D center in India. If you look at what this IT services industry of India has created in this nation, you will be very happy that this industry actually led to the creation of a very well-known India stack. We know that we could very quickly establish world's first biometric-based identity of large population of about 1.3 billion identity posted on a very great algorithm, and the server, we call it Aadhaar. We have also quickly transformed our VAT and Celtex entire system. We could implement GST network. Overall, the digitization of government services have been happening at very fast pace. Even before that, if I take you to the success story that Indian uh, startup ecosystem created in India, it was all powered by IT services industry because of the cost arbitrage, our aggregator companies, our e-commerce platforms, they have recorded phenomenal success. And now, if we look at the present status of technology-based startup ecosystem within this country, you'll be very happy to know that we are third largest technology startup ecosystem in the entire world. With the, if we look at the statistics in this sector, you will find that so far we have 38 unicorns. And during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown period, we added 12 unicorns. We received equity investment worth $3.9 billion, and the cumulative valuation of this startup ecosystem has reached to $55 billion. Why I'm trying to cite these statistics to you is that, as I said, we have a very strong IT services industry with 4.3 million engineers working at all levels of value chain. Apart from that, we have also seen the emergence of a very quick emergence of technology startup ecosystem. I just cited you the statistics. We have also seen the emergence of India Stack, which is founded on the digitization of the governance and the government. And with all these things, my fellow, my peer presenter and the speakers have already pointed out the kind of dividend, the benefit that India has in terms of 3D, uh, our demography, our demand, and our democracy. We are growing in terms of ease of doing business. We have taken initiatives to transform India also into software product. We came up with National Policy on Software Product 2019, and we are taking a number of initiatives to make sure that our young boys and girls all across the country could indulge into ideation and could come up with the tacit technology products or creation of a startup ecosystem. We also know that India is heavily investing through its production linked incentives in terms of in terms of creation of electronic manufacturing all across the country, so that we could not only create for our demography, our demands, but we should also be able to export those electronic goods and services. We are also trying to do create by way of incentivization a number of electronics manufacturing clusters, so that all those investors who want to join us in India, they can get those infrastructure readily, and they could start functioning. We would say that India is working in all directions to make the things better for the investors, to make India a manufacturing destination along with the technology product destination. And with the kind of demand we have, the kind of talent, the kind of demography we have, the kind of uh, resolve of the present government to make the things better for the investor, to continuously rise in terms of ease of doing business. This is the kind of endeavor that we are continuously indulged. And that is why I must say that you may look at India, where we are trying to do our best to make things better for you, to make you available a great demography, a talent pool, a very great IT services industry, which is capable of transforming and creating most complex system in the entire world. And therefore, you get everything on this soil, on this land, by which you can actually not only come here, join hand with the startups, with the IT services industry, or invest into the government process, digitization of the government, can use this soil for a manufacturing base. You can export from that soil. Made in India, we are transforming from Make in India towards Made in India, because we are very conscious about quality and brand creation. And that is why I must say that under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister of India, the present government is doing its best to make sure that you are welcomed, all your hurdles are eased out. We continuously work with you based on your input, based on your feedback, and evolve with passage of time, grow in ease of doing business index, and welcome you with whatever requirement you have, and handhold you so that you can indulge on the soil and create whatever you want to create. With these few words, I must thank Nalin Kohli ji, ESC, for not only presenting this opportunity along with the galaxy of speakers, but to say a few words about present environment in terms of investment within this nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rai. I would now request Anat. Anat is an old friend she's based in Israel, and she looked at some of our social media posts and she made a comment, don't you have any women speakers there in IndiaSoft? And I said, of course, we would love to have you with us. So, and she chose a very unusual topic. She chose IT applications in agriculture, in agrotech. And I would like to relate a personal experience. Last time I was in Israel, I met a startup there, through a common friend who was trying to pick my brains. And I saw the presentation, and then I said, what has been your experience in Israel about this product or this solution? And he said, no, we are not launching it in Israel. We are actually launching it in India. Israel is a small market, and we want to test it out in India, and we are doing it in the city of Pune. And now, what could be a better market for agriculture than India? We are one of the largest in terms of agricultural produce. We are the largest producer of milk, very high on vegetables, and we need technology and IT for agriculture. And may I now request Anat, those of you who do not know her, she is an investment banker, a qualified lawyer, did her MBA from United States in San Francisco. She's worked with World Bank, and she is an outstanding professional, brings a lot of value, and a great friend of India. She is the president of India-Israel Chamber of Commerce. So thank you, Anat, for being with us. And may I now request you to make your presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Nalin. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So first, thanks for inviting me to meet old new friends. When you tell me that I'm an old friend, I take it personally because I'm not old, right? We're just old friends. When we think about Israel and India, and Deepak just spoke about FDI and what Invest India is doing, I think that the future is in collaborations. And for those of you who've been to Israel, India is all the time talking about being a startup nation, but you're going to steal this title from us. We are the startup nation now. And you will find here a lot of technologies that are coming from the universities, from the military, from the hubs, from the multinationals that are coming here. And when you invited me to talk today, I think that very relevant collaboration is in the agriculture, in a sense that Israel is an IT hub, an agriculture hub, and suddenly in the past few years, it became agri-tech. And we're taking our know-how from agriculture, taking our know-how from IT, and that's where the precision agriculture comes in. And we are all facing the protest of farmers in India. And I'm not getting into Indian politics, of course, but when you have precision agriculture, when you're taking precise water consumption, precise pesticides, by using mobile apps, by using drones, sensors, etc., you'll be able to give higher yields, less loss, and higher profitability to everyone on the chain, from the farmer to the vendor to the consumer. And this is very important. And that's where I call Indian companies in the audience today to collaborate with Israeli companies. Now, Deepak spoke about the size of India. I mean, even if we take the 1.4 billion number, Israel is only 9 million. And the 9 million, when they develop a technology, they don't do it for Israel. This is maybe a neighborhood in Delhi or Bombay. I mean, Israeli companies develop technologies for abroad, for US market, for European market. And recently, Israelis start to understand that India is a market that cannot be ignored. And they develop products which are designed for the Indian market. And let it be mobile apps. And I established, I don't know if you know, Nalin, I established some time back a center which is called the Agribator. It's a center for taking Israeli technologies in agri-tech and adapting it to the Indian market, because it's not enough to develop something here in the local conditions. You have to adapt it to India, to the electricity, to the water, to the fertilizers, to the Indian farmer, to the Indian mindset. And in the Agribator, for example, now we work with a mobile app that takes a picture of a crop and gives an estimate how much more fertilizer you need. It's all digital. I mean, the farmer will become a tech expert very soon because he has a mobile phone, and a mobile is now the center of the world. And a farmer that didn't know much about digital with the mobile app, with the mobile itself, can do everything. And it will improve their life because they have access to data. They have access to the most advanced technologies and applications. And with the mobile app, he takes a picture of the leaves and it will tell them if he needs more water or he needs more fertilizers or any other inputs that he is using for his crop. And this will be a game changer for the agriculture. So agriculture will be an important a point of collaboration. I'd like to use 2 more minutes to talk about 2 other aspects of collaboration in the digital space. And this is health and education, where Israel and India can collaborate. Because if you look at education, the COVID situation taught us that we need distance learning and we need edutech. And there are a lot of solutions that were developed in Israel and can be very useful in India. We spoke about the COVID being a catalyst of so many social trends and new technologies, and definitely in the education space, with the new technologies developed for long distance or distance learning, as we once used to call it, it can reach rural India, and it will give equal opportunity for people that are not in Delhi, Bombay, or the major metros. The second point of collaboration, and we had Mr. From Hyderabad, excuse me that I missed on his name. Israel is a center for science and technology and biotech. And with India now positioning itself to be the pharmacy of the world, a lot of technologies can be sourced from our academia, which is commercializing everything. I mean, the academia in Israel is looking at how we can commercialize it from the day it is in the lab. And it can go straight to Hyderabad, to the Genome Valley, and take Israeli early research and take it into commercialization in your wonderful pharmaceutical companies and other biotech companies. So those are the 3 digital trends that I urge people in the audience today to consider. I will put my email and I'll be happy to connect you to members in my Chamber of Commerce that are eager to collaborate with Indian companies in those three domains. Thank you, Nalin.
Thank you, Anat. Thank you very much. And I only was talking about the age of our friendship and certainly not your age. So I would like to say that our friendship goes back for a while, and we are delighted to have you with us. I would only like to say that when a large company comes to a foreign country, they can do things on their own, like IBM or Microsoft. When they come to India, they set up their own operations. And Israel is more of small and medium companies. And so we will be delighted. We are totally in agreement with you on these new areas which you have identified. Many of our exhibitors would be interested. And while they will get back to you, but some of your members who want to find out what these companies are doing, who would make the right partner, I would encourage that they visit the exhibition. It is on from today and it will go on till the 31st. So at their convenience, at whatever time they want to visit the digital exhibition, they can come, they can identify, shortlist companies, and we would be very happy to facilitate that process. So I would like to thank you once again for being with us, sharing your thoughts, and look forward to continuing this dialogue. Thank you, Anat.
Thank you.
May I now request Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan. Mr. Chauhan is an IT professional. As I mentioned, he is former head of Reliance, former CIO of Reliance. Then he was involved with the National Stock Exchange. He helped in setting it up. And now he is the CEO and managing director of what was earlier known as Bombay Stock Exchange. I had the privilege of meeting him in Toronto once, and there's a very famous university called Ryerson University there. Ryerson also runs a very big fintech incubator in the financial district of Toronto. And they wanted to set up something in India, and they chose Bombay Stock Exchange as their partners. And they had at that time an incubator which was actually located in the BSE premises. So Mr. Chauhan is not only heading the largest stock exchange, but also is helping the incubation of fintech companies. And when this COVID came in, and even a little before that, India started moving towards a digital payment system, and that was a huge change. And I think financial sector is one where probably the biggest growth has happened in terms of numbers of new bank accounts, number of new investors who are coming in. And Mr. Chauhan will throw light on all that. And of course, it brings other opportunities that as we have more digital transactions, we need more cybersecurity to take care of frauds which can happen. So these are great opportunities in the Indian market. And I request Mr. Chauhan to share his views.
Thank you, Mr. Kohli. Good evening. Good to everyone. India was considered a skilled manpower provider in IT and digital transformation to develop the world, not itself. So we were like sending you the people who could change you and your life, but not our own life. So around 1985 to 1991, it was said that India had a very low penetration of telecom. It was almost one telephone per 100 people. And if we could increase it to even 60, 70 per 100, India's GDP will increase 2% per annum just by connecting people by analog telephones. And that was in 1991. As late as 2004, when I was working for a new age telecom company in cellular telephony, India had 4 phones per 100 people, 4 phone connections for 100 people. And India then leapfrogged. It straight away went from 4 phones to 100 per 100 and very little computers, very few computers, to almost 80 phone lines, and all of them completely digital in last 15 years. So what took world 100 years to connect itself with computers and of course connect analog and then digital, India straight away leapfrogged. And so in a way, India has done leapfrogging in many, many ways, but this was an unbelievable leapfrog, which none of us could believe when we actually were going through it. And I have been, in a sense, part of the automation, the digitization of India in variety of ways. But this is, when I look back over last 30 years, it has been an unbelievable journey for me as well as for my country. And now it's the most adaptive nation due to the predominantly young population, which is exposed to the technology and the fast changing world that is happening around them. And India, in a way, is going to lead the world going forward. My own area, which is what I call fintech, when I started India's National Stock Exchange in 93, 94, that time fintech was not even a word in embryo. I used to call it cyberspace, and people used to laugh that when the telephone lines don't work, or why on earth your sort of completely connected stock exchange will work. But not that it worked, it became one of the largest in the world. And today, Indian stock markets over last 20 years have become completely automated, the most automated financial markets in the world. And now we know that portion, the connectivity, using connectivity and technology to connect, include people, is called financial in fintech, and India is pretty much the leader. If you look at what kind of leadership India has developed using its own technologies, that today our mobile payments per month is going to increase to almost 2 billion transactions per month. 2 billion transactions per month. In 2018, when I spoke at UN, we were doing close to 500 million, and now we have almost 4 times in 2 or 3 years. In fact, COVID has actually accelerated the trend to sort of accept the digital payments. And India is also among the most frugal innovators. So if you look at our digital payments, the fintech payments related costs to the final users, it's close to zero. In fact, most users get cash back for using Google's payment or anyone else's payment. And that is also amusing, because in Africa and many other countries, Kenya and other, I recall people paying 10% of the money to the service provider for just transferring money. Whereas in India, now you get paid for transferring money to somebody else. And that is the kind of revolution that has come in. And it's going to affect India in many, many ways. And for me, what BSE needs to do is to provide basically the capital that is required by these youngsters. We have a huge entrepreneurial zeal and activity that has come up. And most of our newspapers are now filled with the millions of dollars that is going to funding into this young entrepreneurs and young businesses. But for me, I mean, I have been an entrepreneur myself of the IT type, what we call fintech type, and I did not get funding. I had to do bootstrapping, and then I sold my company to BSE. That's how I came into BSE as a kind of a techpreneur who stayed back in BSE. But effectively, I acutely remember the lack of capital availability for people who are not proven as entrepreneurs. I was proven as a business manager. Even I started one of the largest exchanges in the world, but I was not myself an entrepreneur. And so I had to really struggle. And that's why I said, if we can create a framework for youngsters to raise money from complete unknown people in an organized way, not peer-to-peer lending, but through the proper market channels. That's where BSE started incubator, where BSE currently runs 2 incubators with Department of Science and Technology as well as Niti Aayog in BSE's own building, as well as at Varanasi, Banaras Hindu University. BSE is in the process of collaborating with many other incubators across the country to ensure that if the entrepreneur wants $1,000, we'll get you. And if you want $10 billion, we'll get you. From $1,000 to $10 billion. But my framework is that the future is not going to require a lot of capital to create more capital. The future is going to require a little bit of capital, a lot of brains, a lot of connectivity, a lot of exposure to the world, and a lot of access to the world. Our entrepreneurs would be able to create huge wealth. For me, today India's wealth is around $10 trillion. In next 50 years, India is going to create another $90 trillion, 10 times more wealth in only next 50 years. And large part of that wealth is going to be created using these digital technologies. And if I can create a platform or several platforms for youngsters to come raise funds, that is what I call capitalism without capital. To create more capital, to create more wealth in future, you may not require a lot of capital, but whatever little you require, and then subsequent further rounds, I should be able to raise it for you. And that's where from incubator to startup, we have a startup segment where you can raise as little as $100,000. No other country has successfully created an organized market for young businesses to raise as little as $100,000. Minimum $1 million is just the cost of raising funds. Here, you are able to raise $100,000 very cost effectively on BSE startup platform. So we have an incubator platform, we have a startup platform, we have an SME platform where people are raising almost $1 million a piece over last 7-8 years. And then, of course, we have the main board. So effectively, we have created a framework for youngsters, young businesses, technology entrepreneurs to raise funds, create wealth for themselves in future, but also create wealth for this nation. We missed out on the industrial revolution, and that's where our GDP as a percentage of world GDP went down from 25% to 3% in almost 200 years. Now, it's our onus is on us to create that facilitation for youngsters to take our GDP per capita, I mean GDP as a percent of world GDP from currently 3 to 4% to almost 15 to 20% over the next 50 years. So that's what BSE is working towards. 145 years of history BSE has. The market capitalization of listed firms on BSE is now $2.8 trillion. I have 62 million customers, investor accounts registered with me. If I were a country, I would be in top 15 in the world. BSE would be top 15 in the world just by number of people. And these are high net worth individuals who have registered with us. 62 million people. Every day, I am adding 50 to 70,000 new investors into the market who are willing to invest in these youngsters as well as old companies. And that's where I have a huge hope. And I invite all my entrepreneurs who are watching this, as well as all entrepreneurs from the world who want to come and set up their businesses, to come and raise their funds on BSE. BSE is open for you. India is open for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chauhan. That's very heartening to know for an entrepreneur. It has always been, like you rightly said, funding was not available earlier. Now it is available, but we still need your help. And most of our members, most of the young entrepreneurs who are wanting to raise capital, I think we will have another session with you to understand the nuts and bolts of it and take this further. I would like to thank you for being with us and sharing your thoughts. That brings us to the last speaker for today, Mr. Radhakrishnan. Mr. S. Radhakrishnan, he actually is a past chairman of ESC, and he runs a software company. Outstanding track record as a professional. He has been president of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce, and he's based in Kolkata. May I request Mr. Radhakrishnan to share his views? He actually is going to talk to us about cybersecurity, because that is one important area where we need collaborations. There's a huge opportunity, and many of our members would like to join hands, particularly in that with companies in Israel, to work together, as this opportunity is huge. And we can work, we can collaborate and create opportunities and a win-win situation for both. So, Mr. Radhakrishnan, over to you.
Mr. Kohli, my fellow panelists, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings to all of you. At the outset, let me compliment all the exhibitors and delegates who have joined IndiaSoft 2021 for the giant leap they have made, adapting to a new format of our flagship show. I'm sure the exhibition will bring fruitful results to all of you. I'm indeed glad to be a part of this August gathering and the prestigious panel that has
Can you
gathered
be
today.
closer to the mic? Your audio is not very good. Can you be a little closer to the mic?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
A little better.
Is it okay?
Just be as close as possible.
That's why I switched off the video, but is it okay now?
A little better, but it is not what we were having earlier with other speakers. But please go ahead.
I'm indeed glad to be a part of this August gathering and the prestigious panel that has gathered to discuss a very important subject related to IT industry. Several of the previous speakers have already dwelt in detail about opportunities that India's digital economy will offer. I would like to throw light on one specific area as mentioned by Mr. Nalin Kohli, that is cyber security. We all know that this is one area that will continuously need new solutions from software engineers and entrepreneurs. An important aspect to be highlighted here is that cybersecurity is important not only for businesses, but even for national security. A peculiar trait of cyber threat is that despite deployment of security measures, cyberspace remains vulnerable to malicious attacks. Thus, we face a constant challenge to keep our networks secure. Having worked closely on this area, I clearly foresee increasing complexities in securing fast expanding digital world. As more and more areas see penetration of digitally enabled operations, risk too will go up in the same proportion. Just to give an idea, certain Indian Computer Agency Response Team, India's premier agency handling cybersecurity issues, handled about 394,499 incidents during 2019. This is the figure related to cases handled by one agency. Each state has its own cyber emergency response team. Thankfully, Government of India is in the process of putting a comprehensive data protection framework in place. The draft of National Cybersecurity Strategy is already in place. I may mention here that this one area where we still have a lot of work to do. We need to develop extensively both hardware as well as software cybersecurity tools. For this reason, cybersecurity is of paramount importance for government organizations also, and is a vital asset to the nation. With most of the workforce still working from home, we now need to focus security budget from perimeter security to endpoint security. We will need more and more antivirus software, VPN, DLP, data leakage prevention, MDM, mobile device management, etc. We will also need security solutions based on artificial intelligence that may preempt attacks by hackers of all use. With India's digital economy set to touch $1 trillion mark by 2025, I can foresee more and more need for sophisticated solutions based on emerging technologies to protect our cyber world. I may reiterate here that all these, as well as other areas, are bound to see more complexities in the years to come. Needless to say, demand for security structure will also grow exponentially. This opens doors for international companies specializing in cybersecurity to join hands with Indian partners and develop new solutions. I invite all our friends from different parts of the globe to partner with Indian entities so that we may develop new innovative products and solutions to secure ourselves. With these words, I once again wish all the best to all of you and hope IndiaSoft 2021 brings new business opportunities for all delegates and exhibitors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Radhakrishnan, for that overview about India's cybersecurity opportunity. Friends, we are coming towards the end of the session. My apologies for the initial glitches which happened, and also for we are little past our time that we had planned. I would only like to sum up by saying that the show has started today. These opportunities which were discussed, whether it was fintech, whether it was cyber, whether it was precision agriculture, which Anak mentioned about, India offers huge opportunities. And as per World Bank reports, we would be the fastest growing economy post-COVID. We invite all of you to partner with our companies. The larger companies have been doing it for a long time. This is our opportunity to develop partnerships between small and mid-sized companies. So I see that you are from various parts of the globe. Please spread this message. The exhibition is on. We also have some very interesting country-wise sessions, like one for US and Canada, one for UK, there's one on Africa, there is one on Asia Pacific. You can see the program on the IndiaSoft website, and please feel free to join any of the conferences that you want to attend and also visit the exhibition. So may I now request Mr. Gurmeet Singh, our Executive Director, to propose a formal vote of thanks. Mr. Gurmeet Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Esteemed speakers on today's panel on opportunities in India's digital economy, industry members from India and various parts of the globe, ladies and gentlemen. It is my proud privilege to propose a hearty vote of thanks to the chief guest of today's conference, Mr. Sanjay Chadha, Additional Secretary, Department of Commerce, Government of India. Sir, listening to you is always a pleasure. Once again, your words have come as a source of inspiration and guidance to all of us. My sincere thanks to all the distinguished members of the panel who spared their valuable time to share their views with us today. Let me start by thanking